Today I'd like to do a review on these two low-cost Casio quartz watches. To start with, the more interesting one on the right is a Casio Overland. Now, Overland is Casio's Japanese domestic line of hiking watches for hiking, exploration, etc. The interesting thing about this watch is that it has a solar panel for a dial, and it changes the color depending on the angle. And I personally think it looks great. Second, it has really nice indices. Really high quality, and it's absolutely amazing that this watch probably retailed for about 130 US or so, and since it's about 10 years old, probably can be bought much cheaper on the secondhand market. But the kind of detail you see on this is detail that you wouldn't necessarily see even maybe in $1,000+ mechanical watch. Aside from the solar function, this also has an atomic synchronization. Unfortunately, since it's a JDM watch, you can only sync it in Japan. Now, there used to be an iOS app that allowed you to spoof a Japanese signal. I don't know if it's still there or not, but even if you can't get it to work that way, it has instructions on the back, and it's not terribly difficult to set the time and date. It's a perpetual calendar and everything as well. It also has an alarm function, which isn't the easiest to use, but it is there. So clearly a lot of features have been placed into this, but for me, the main deal is the dial. Really pretty dial, really nice handset. The case is titanium. It's a little chunky at about 12 millimeters height, but it's pretty easy to wear. It also came with a titanium band, but I tend not to wear it and experiment with different straps. And as I said, it's just, depending on how the light hits it, just really beautiful. Just not a word you would usually associate with a $100 quartz Casio. Now, the second watch was available in the North American market and isn't nearly as fancy, but it's still very useful. It has 200-meter depth range, and even though the dial is more basic and the handset is more basic, they're still, I find, aesthetically pleasing. And the button at 2 o'clock sets off an LED at 12 o'clock to light it. The Overland has the same function, except obviously it's solar and this is battery powered. Lugs here are 22 millimeters, so it's pretty chunky compared to the 20 millimeter Overland, but it's an amazingly functional little watch. Now, the bezel isn't the best, but I'll throw in the caveat that I should probably pop it open and give it a good clean and lube, but it certainly gets the job done. And let's bring these back together and let's turn the light off. You'll notice that the lume on the right is very strong, and that lasts all night. The left one, not so much, but it still gets the job done. And here's how the LED works. And here is how it works on the right. Not bad. As you see, the lume is starting to fail on the left, but holding steady on the right. Also, this has an auto tilt function where if you tilt it, the LED will turn on as well. Now, again, my reasoning behind talking about these two watches is that I find myself being in a pretty deep buy-sell cycle. I've been doing a lot of buying and selling over the years, mostly buying, and I came to the realization that I need to take a break, and I really need to assess what I have, because sometimes you get so fixated on what you don't have that you forget about what you have. And these little watches that were in the watch box are watches that most people don't know about. They're pretty obscure, and the way our watch-related social media is moving would be looked down upon, with all the advertorial, all the people pushing and reviewing things that they happen to be selling that are a great deal until, the next auction where the price will double, so you need to get into that before the value skyrockets. But these watches retailed for about 120 US or under, even though this one was only available in Japan. The point behind it is these watches are not really cult classics. There aren't many, if any, write-ups on it. But I happened to research them, and I picked them because I like them, because I like the functions that they have. And it took time, it took effort, but I accomplished something. And no matter what price point you happen to be shopping in, it's always better to take your time and do your research and figure out the aesthetics you like, the functions you like, and then go seek out to find watches that have those. Because for the most part, you can find them at any price point. Sure, if it's going to be on the lower end, you may have to limit yourself to quartz versus a mechanical, but there are plenty of cool watches out there that people aren't shilling and aren't marketing and trying to manipulate the price on in general. And for instance, I'm pretty sure this watch can still be had used on Yahoo Auctions Japan for probably 50 US. And this is, since this was available in North America, I think it's held its value okay, but I think it's still a watch that can probably be purchased for under 100 US. Now, again, these particular watches suit me. I like the aesthetics, and if you don't appreciate the aesthetics, then obviously these aren't for you, but I hope you still appreciate the take-home message. Figure out the things you like and try to move down the less worn path and see what you can find, because the world is a big place. There are tons of watches that exist, and there are plenty of watches that aren't being marketed and pushed on you. So if you have the interest, go and seek them out. And that's about it for this video. And as usual, thanks for watching.